Hello YouTube. Today I'm gonna show you guys how to mount a scope and line it all out and make it shoot right. So I've got my Crosman 760 laying up here. I built me a gun cradle here a while back, probably about a couple years ago or something, and it's pretty handy. And so let's get started. Okay, guys, I made sure the gun wasn't loaded, and I've taken off this scope. And this scope is fine. Everything's good with it. I don't really need to sight this one in. It seems to be okay. And I'm going to mount this one. Now, bought it at a flea market actually for a couple bucks. And I'm just going to throw it on here, try it out. One thing about these scopes is the objective lens right here, sometimes that's loose. And as you fire the gun, it'll turn and that'll throw your point of impact off. So you need to kind of watch that with these, especially if you get them like at a yard sale or flea market or something. But anyway, I'm going to throw this on here and we'll start sighting it in and doing everything we need to do. So let's just go ahead and see if we can't get this dude started. And we'll get it on here. Now, I want to kind of make sure that I get everything kind of snugged up on these screws to where it can't move. It's just a little tight, not crazy tight. I just want to put it on there for right now. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to optically center the scope. Now, the way I'm going to do this is basically I'll loosen off the scope rings just a little bit to where I could rotate the scope. So let's see if I can get in here. And alright, there we go. Now the idea here is I'll look through the scope as I rotate it, and I'll watch the crosshairs. So I want the crosshairs to stay on the same point as I rotate it. And I'll see if I can't get the camera in there, and we'll look through it as I rotate it as it sits right now. Okay guys, that was it's pretty bad out, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what I did. So I have this turret and this turret. It sits like this. So what I do is I rotate it this way and adjust this one over here, and then I rotate it around, see where the point is, and adjust it again. Then I rotate it back and then adjust and adjust. So on this turret I'll do the same thing. I'll rotate it here, then I'll rotate it around and adjust, rotate it back and adjust, and rotate it around again and adjust, and then I'll spin the scope to make sure that my crosshairs are holding center. So let's look through it now and see how it looks with the crosshairs and the scope optically centered. Okay, and now I'll line it up, line the crosshairs, the vertical crosshairs up with the string I got hanging out there, and that'll give me my alignment as far as my crosshairs go, and that way I'm sure that the vertical line on my crosshairs are the same as the vertical line hanging out there. So just line that up, and right now I'll just tighten it down, and so that's it. Okay guys, the scope is optically centered. So what I'm doing is, this right here is the erector tube. Okay, now these are the parts of the scope: the objective lens, the adjustment screws, there's two lenses inside the little tube here. Right there, if you can see it, it's the crosshairs, the adjustment bell for your eyepiece right there. So basically what I've done is I've adjusted these screws right here to where it centers this little tube right here. This is the rectal tube right here. And it's centered now to where when I spin it, the crosshairs appear to be in center, referencing this tube to this tube with the center of the line, center of the sight going through the scope. So now I could make it to where I could adjust the scope independently and get it in line to the barrel center as close as I can. So that's basically what we got. Now, I've got an up and coming video, Airgun 415 scope mods, and what I'll do is I'll talk about the adjustable objective, making that adjustable, and there's ambient light entering in through here. I'll talk about that a little bit, and making a 4-power scope into a 2-power scope, or making a 4-power scope into a 6-power scope. Now, when I set a scope up, I loosen up the lock ring right here, and I start adjusting this, screwing it in and out until when I look through the scope, the crosshairs are very crisp. They're very clear. And I'll adjust this until that point, and then whatever I'm looking at, say 10 yards away, I'll make that adjustable, or adjust it to where that's clear as well. So I want to adjust this until everything's clear as far as the crosshairs go, and then I adjust it just a little bit to make my target clear as well. And then I'll lock the bell here. I'll lock it with the lock ring there, and that's how I adjust the sights for my particular vision, or anybody's vision for that matter. But so let's go back to it. And okay, guys, the scope, the optics of the scope are now centered. So what I do now is I've tightened the rings up. I adjusted the eyesight. I adjusted it. I held the gun up and made sure I could see through it fine. So this way it's adjusted. Now what I do is I take a straight edge, and I know the gun's level. So I put my straight edge up here and measure to the scope in 4 different places, and I'll go over here and on this side too. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to make sure the scope is what it is this way and what it is this way. So I want to make sure if the scope's over this way, or the scope's on center but twisted a little bit, I want to have a reference point for later on. Now right now, relative to the receiver, the scope's sitting at a little bit of an angle. This is left of center, so it's about a 64th or something like that. So it's sitting slightly crooked. Now what I'll do at this point is I'll make sure the scope's tightened down, and I'll shoot the gun, and I'll see where the center of the scope line is relative to the center of the barrel. So when I shoot the gun, I'll be able to determine where the optics need to be in line with the barrel. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot the gun and see how it works out. Okay guys, I shot the gun, and the gun is shooting low and a little bit to the left. So what I did was, let me show you here, I loosened off this screw right here, okay, and it's loose now. So what I'm going to do is, if you see that white piece of paper right here, I folded it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that behind that scope ring and push it out towards me a little bit. And because there's very little recoil in this gun, this is going to work out pretty well. So as you can see, I'm just pushing it in there, and there we go. So, and it's in there now. So I'll turn it back and tighten this up. There we go. Now then, all right, and it was also shooting a little bit low. So let me show you what I'm going to do with that. Okay guys, now when I shot the gun, the point of aim and the point of impact was quite a bit different, about 3 inches, and that's pretty much basically if it's more than 3 inches at 10 yards, I do this kind of stuff, and if it's not, then I just adjust it out. So what I've done here, you can see the white piece of paper, and I put the screw in here, kind of wedged it open to where I have enough room to mess around with it. And what I'm doing is I'm jacking the scope up in the back to where the point of aim comes down to the point of impact. So I'll just push that in there and get it as even as I can down at the bottom. Okay, there we go. And yeah, that looks all right. So now I just gotta take that out. Okay, so I got my screw in here. So I'm just gonna wedge this up a little bit. Don't know if you can see that well. Take my screwdriver out. Do a little bit more straightening on it. There we go. And put my screw back in. Tighten it up. And there we go. So I'm going to test fire it one more time to make sure that I've adjusted it down a little bit and adjusted it over a little bit to compensate for where it was shooting. So now the scope line is in line with the barrel. So I'm going to test fire it and then I'll go ahead and adjust it in. Okay guys, it looks pretty close now. I've got to adjust it a little bit. So let's see what we got here. So it's still shooting low just a tad, so I need to adjust it up. So I need to bring the pellet up a little bit to intersect with the line of sight. So I'm going to screw this out lefty-loosey, and as I adjust, the pellet will come up because I'm adjusting this, and screwing it out brings this up and brings the pellet up to the point of aim. So I adjusted that a little bit, kind of wrap on the scope with my knuckle, just a little bit. Let's load another one. Okay, that looks pretty good. A little bit more. There we go. Again, screwing this out lefty-loosey, bringing the pellet as it appears on the target, bringing it up to the crosshairs, the bullseye. So I also got to adjust it a little bit to the left, just a tiny amount, probably that much. So, all right, let's try it again. Oh, okay, there it is. That's it. So we've got it adjusted. Remember, I'm aiming at the bullseye through the sights, and I'm screwing this out to where lefty-loosey, screwing this out, bringing the pellet impact up to the bullseye. And on the windage, if I want the pellet to go right towards the bullseye, then I screw this out. I screw it in the same direction I want the pellet to go. So if I want to go the other way, left, if I want the pellet to go left towards the bullseye, I would screw this one in righty-tighty. And basically the way I do it is if these are coming out, the pellet's going up. If these are going in, the pellet's going down. And windage is the same way. If this is going in, the pellet's going to the left. And if it's coming out, the pellet's going to the right. So I'm always aiming at the bullseye, but this is the way I move the pellets, and that's just the way I do it. Now, there's various techniques on how to do this, but this is just how I do it. So this is all sighted in. It's ready to go. It looks good. So I'm going to call it sighted in. It's in line with the barrel and everything. It really uh, looks like it's going to work out okay. And if I ever want to adjust the elevation for distance, say I would shoot this gun probably 15, maybe 20 yards at the most. But if I wanted to shoot, say, 40 yards, I can adjust the clicks, and because the alignment of the scope is in line with the barrel, I can adjust it straight up, and it'll bring the point of impact up to where it can reach out to, say, 40 yards or 35 yards or whatever the case may be. And that way my turret's in line with everything else going on, and it just makes it easier to adjust it out like that. So anyway, there we are, guys. All right, thanks.